Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Just finished up a Zoom interview, which I'm going to share with you in a second. For longtime subscribers may recognize who is in the video, Dave Husto, who I featured probably when I only had a few hundred members, subscribers. And his system is an amazing system. One of the more preeminent rooms that of all my friends that have visited homes, remarks about his dedicated room. And he doesn't have the most extravagant gear. Obviously, great gear. It's nothing to sneeze at in terms of gear, but in terms of $100,000 worth of stuff, no. And he's able to get performance though that gets people to say, "Wow," especially in the sound stage, and that's something that has to do with your room. And so, no matter how much you spend on gear or what your budget allows, you're never going to get the ceiling of the performance of that gear unless you pay attention to your room. So I thought it would be good to revisit with him for those of you that are newer subscribers that didn't see this video in the past. And also he's had a lot of updates in his system as well. Analog tape. He changed his DAC to the Holo spring and the Serenity DAC. Preamp. I'm sure I'm getting these wrong. He's going to go through that in the video. But really the key to his setup is the attention paid to the room, dedicated room. He even mapped out the dimensions. I know that's not practical for a lot of people, but little things go a long way. And he's been able to do a lot of this on a tight budget, reasonable budget over many years. So again, you can't just snap your fingers unless you have a mega dollar budget, but a lot of people that can snap their fingers don't put the attention that he has put into his room. So it kind of fits the theme of my channel, some of the things I've been focusing on, helping you guys get the best performance in the ceiling of whatever gear you can afford. So, and also my friend Doug is going to be featured in this because he spent the day over at Dave's today listening. So you get another third party opinion of what he heard. And many of you who are subscribers will recognize Doug's system and Doug from many videos I've done with his MBO 101s, his SMc Audio monoblocks, his REL 25. I've done videos of all that. He finally got his SMc Audio dedicated preamp from scratch. It was a new build that Steve McCormick's never done before. Totally custom build for Doug. His budget took over a year to get it done, but well worth the wait. And it's just a fun process to go through regardless of the wait. And so the payoff is now here, and Doug's going to share a little bit about that. But I'm going to have another Zoom interview with Doug in more detail that includes Steve McCormick, so he can talk about the technical side. And for those of you that are maybe interested in that route, can learn a little bit more. So without further ado though, let's talk with Dave, Doug, and anybody else that I think, also some of the members of the texting group of members of my site. I gave them this link and they could join in as well. Maybe in the future we'll pop up them in video and have more of a powwow. So again, if you want to join as a member, this is one of the other little perks that you can get. So without further ado though, let's start off with the Zoom and hope you enjoy. Yeah, so I just wanted to catch up because it's been such a long time, Dave, since we looked at your house in my video channel. I probably only had a few hundred subscribers when we did the original walkthrough. And then when Doug said he was going to visit you, it was a perfect opportunity to kind of revisit. I know you've got one of the best rooms, dedicated rooms of any audiophile that we've met over the years, and killer system. So can you do like, and then we're going to go over Doug's stuff. He just got a new preamp from Steve McCormick. So I thought it might be good material to share on the YouTube channel. So I'm going to record this. So for those that may not have seen you the first time, Dave, maybe give a little synopsis, because I got to get refreshed too of what you got going on. I think you've gotten into tape as well.
Boy, a lot has changed since then. And I guess you did, a couple of good videos with me. And I guess the lesson I learned, I think I talk too much. So I'm going to try not to do that this time. And I think the main gist of everything that came down was that the room is important. The room is everything. And without that, you're really stuck. It's so much better to spend, if you have money to spend on something, if you can spend it on the room first, trying to get that right, and then go for the equipment, go for the high-end gear, you're a much better place, I think.
Yeah, I think what going to these shows teaches you is that you can see the same gear year after year, but it sounds different. And what changes? It's usually the room and how they set it up in that room. And what you've got a great example of is how you've been able to use, great equipment, but it's not in that $100,000 per piece kind of gear, but you're able to get that state-of-the-art performance because you put so much attention into your room. And that's what most people come away talking about. I know that's what Doug has always remarked when he came. And I'll let Doug speak for himself because he was over there earlier today.
Right. I was hoping they would have let that guy that's trapped in the wall out since last time, but he's still stuck up there.
Yeah. Well, he went from the back wall to the front wall.
Yeah. Now, I was impressed. I don't know how long ago it was that I went to Dave's place. I think maybe 12 years ago or so.
Before the extension. Yeah.
I was always impressed. I mean, the word soundstage to people that don't have a ton of listening experience, sometimes they go, yeah, I hear the soundstage. When you hear Dave's system, it has such a three-dimensionality that's just hard to place. I mean, you can literally just picture the whole band or orchestra, whatever the music that you're listening to, all out there in front of you. And just the meticulous detail that he has paid attention to his room has really paid off. And I would venture to say that you could take a system that is worth a fraction of the nice stuff that Dave has, put it in that room, and it would sound better than probably 85% of the stuff you'd hear at audio shows, just because of the room. Like you said, it's such an important issue, and he's got dedicated power lines, and just the proportions are all right, even though it's not a perfect dimension room, but he's really spent his time dialing it in, and it really sounded fantastic today. I enjoyed listening.
Yeah, well, I think I even remember you saying you were playing Will Smith Get Jiggy With It, and you felt Will Smith slap you. It was so realistic.
That's right. Yeah. So true. That's my go-to vinyl that I carry around with me for intimate listening.
Okay. So, Dave, maybe give a little bit of what your secret sauce is. What do you attribute, the key parts of your room and treatments that you think would be big advantages for somebody to look into that paid off for you?
Boy, first off, of course, you want to start with if you can get a angular dimensions as you can that are close to an ideal, so that all the issues, all the different room modes are evenly spaced out. That's a great way to start, And actually, this room, as far as that goes, is pretty darn close. I think, let me move the camera around a little bit, but it is pretty much a very good rectangular space. If I go around, what it is I recently did an addition. And so the back part of my room is a little narrower, if you can see this section here, than the front part.
Right.
But other than that,
ceiling height is different too, right?
It is. See, this is all a nice cathedral ceiling, in the front section. But as you go to where the room was extended to the back, it is about an 8-foot ceiling in the back.
Gotcha.
And the listening chair is right at that break point between those two parts of the room.
Okay. And so you have a mix of bass traps and normal reflection absorbers, and some of those are diffusers up there. Aren't those
Yes, they are.
Plastic things?
The interesting thing was, see, in those areas that you're referring to, those were at one time strictly absorptive panels and bass traps. And what I did, I started feeling that my room was, I wanted to brighten it up. I wanted it more diffuse, more scattering rather. And so what I did those simple, clear corrugated panels. And I replaced those heavier, bass traps. And like on the ceiling, I just covered them. I just put them on the outside. Then the corners just above, I don't know if you can tell, the top section there, that is one just above It's normal down below, but I have just some scattering up above in that corner.
Yeah, so those are pretty cost-effective room treatments, right?
Very much so. And the thing is, I kind of broke some rules in the bass treatments, because in a corner like that, what you really want are pressure treatments, like a pressure type bass trap. And everything I have in here are velocity traps. Like, in a room corner, that's where all pressure builds up and velocity goes to zero. That's why they're high pressure zones. And they actually have acoustic traps. They're designed like diaphragmatic type. They're designed for high pressure zones to eliminate the bass. These are what they call velocity traps, and they're generally in areas of high velocity is where they work, meaning that you would basically put these in areas of low pressure, because with the lowest pressure, you get the highest velocity. And that's where these work really well. But I put them in corners anyway, as most people do. And I got away with it. I don't know why, but because they're so thick, I guess. The corner ones are about 3 feet across, and they're about 18 inches thick. And so they definitely, they work.
Yeah, you can never predict for certain what things are going to do until you try it, Maybe also, I know a lot of people, obviously room treatments are something we wanted to focus on, and that's a secret to your success, but you do have great gear. Maybe go through a little bit of your gear for those that didn't see that original video. And I think you've updated some of your gear since then.
Oh, yes. Yes, I did. Very much. I tell you, my whole front end basically is new except for LP. I'm going to unsnap this phone here, and it'll make it easier, I think. Oops. Did I lose you? I'm back on Zoom.
Yeah, there we are.
All right.
You're good now.
Yeah, I had gone. There we go. Yeah, I went straight to I guess it was the camera video section. But this is my my source area right here. And yeah, this is the new Atari. I ran into a fella. Boy, his name was given to me, and he specializes just in this particular deck. And this Atari, he thinks it's one of the finest ever made. And so he rebuilt this all the way from bare chassis all the way up. He completely reconditioned everything, even the chassis, took out any scratches, anything, and rebuilt all the electronics, the whole 9 yards. And then what I had done extra, it's also has several heads, and there was like a 4-track head on the over here, and I had that removed, and I added a high performance 2-track head along with the standard 2-track head, and it goes directly to an outboard preamp down here. And so that's my main source. This is from that extra head.
Nice.
But I have the standard head also going to the preamp.
And then you've also got new DAC since we talked. Let's see, a Holo.
Yeah. Yes. I tell you what, this has been a revelation. It's Holo audio, it's what's been blowing up on a lot of the YouTube reviews. This is the DAC, the KTE level 3. It's got this power supply below it. And I went ahead, I had to get a preamp as well, because my previous DAC I thought was an outstanding DAC. It was all, ran on batteries, was ultra clean, built-in preamp in the analog domain. It was great, but I went ahead and I got the companion preamp, which is a Serene, the Holo Serene. And these things together, it's just incredible. The amazing thing is what it did to my analog front end, getting a new preamp. It just opened everything up. I mean, the highs, the extension of the highs, the low end, it opened up the low end down, made it deeper and very taut. And I had no idea what I was missing at that time, and
Converting your analog to digital, though, right?
no.
Oh, you're not?
That's a straight analog preamp.
So you're not going through any room correction processor at all?
It's a straight analog preamp right here. And
Yeah, but you have the companion DAC, so your source is kind of got the synergy with your preamp because it's the same company.
Yes, yes. And then I have my streamer, my SOTM, that's my streamer over there. And I have it's a USB conditioner between the streamer and the DAC. Does that make a difference? I tell you what, on the previous DAC, my answer is yes. On this one, I'm not so sure because the way this is built, it is just so fine inside it. So they took a lot of precautions. I'm not sure about the USB. It's optically isolated in there. I know it's galvanically isolated, but it may have an optical module on the USB input. I'm not certain.
Yeah, that's what's happened over the last 5 to 10 years is that a lot of DAC makers have actually, heard the problems that these USB reclockers and isolation, galvanic isolation could improve a little bit in the past, and they just built it into their DACs now, such that you probably don't want to use it with a modern DAC, and you could actually be putting 2 transformers or doubling up, and it may even be a negative now to use some of these tweaks with a modern DAC that doesn't need it. So yeah,
Right.
probably what you're seeing and hearing now makes sense because DACs have come a long way with the USB input.
Then down here, I do have a Monarchy Audio that is an AC regenerator. It is, AC to DC back to AC again, and I just have my source components on there.
Right. That
So
makes
it's
sense.
just, and it's just, and I have my Proceed, which is made by Mark Levinson as my CD transport, and that sounded just fine today. It's an older unit, but it's still doing its thing. It needs assistance to get the drawer open, but after that, it's all good. And a Sutherland phono preamp in my VTL, basically just very basic. It's a Scoutmaster 2, and it's got the Lyra cartridge. Just about what Doug's got, same thing.
Right.
Then I've got, this is my station over here for my Roon. I've got Roon. And I've got, basically a Mac Mini over here, which is actually has my server. And I've got my, on this part of the wall is where my actually network switch is, because this is where the cable comes in. And I'm actually running a cable out of the network switch, Ethernet, over to my, over to the computer. And then I'm also running one.
Dave, show them what you did with the terminals of your speakers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Jason, you'd like this.
And something I did, these are the VMPS RMV60s, by the way. That is the main towers. And these are called the VLA, very large array base towers. The base towers they're about 300 pounds each. And it's all open. These are dipole. What I did, I tied my speaker cables directly to the inputs for the drivers, wired them directly in instead of going through terminals. And because there's a lot of terminals on here. I don't know if you can see, but there's terminals down on the side where you were meant to go through and then come out the top. And I just bypassed all of that. And it was amazing, the clarity of how these just opened up on the very high frequencies, especially.
Because they were just wires connecting it to the box. You're not using it wasn't bypassing the crossover.
No, not at all, because my crossover is over here. It's electronic. It's right. A digital. Yeah, I'm just using, this is the Exilla 4080, because the system itself is triamped. I've got the base towers are the low bass. The pedestals are the upper bass. And of course, then everything else above basically the cutoff is around, I think about 260 hertz, 280 hertz, I believe I have the crossover set for. And then for the upper range, I'm feeding actually a passive crossover right here. It's in parallel with the mid-range in here. So as the mid-range is fed the signal, so is this passive crossover. Then out of the passive crossover comes the treble. And the treble then is connected directly in over here. So this is used to divide the treble out of the mid-range.
Gotcha. So which amps are you using for which?
Well, right now, I switch between, I've got all mono amps. I've got the Ampzilla 2000s, designed by James Bongiorno, a fellow that I didn't know. I did have a chance to work with him a little bit. And these were designed with these speakers. In fact, the speakers were designed with these amps. They went hand in hand because Brian Chaney and James, they showed together, at CES and, the home entertainment show for many years. The Prima Lunas next to them are used for the same thing. These are the upper range amps. I use those for everything above that 260 hertz on up. I just switched the Prima Lunas in whenever, just for fun. They're great for in the winter months when it's a little bit cooler. I like to see the warm glow of tubes.
Right.
And so they're just fun for that. Now, these used to be my bass amps. These are the Daytona amps or Dayton amps sold there. And I thought they were okay. I had those for the towers because they came with the towers originally. And I thought they were fine. But you know what? I decided, I've had this for years. And it was sitting there doing nothing. My old Eagle 2.
Now
I put that Eagle 2
something
in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
most people don't know what
unbelievable.
that is. I mean, that amp will play like for a minute after you unplug it.
Oh yeah.
It just stores so much energy and is like historically one of the best amps for bass around. If I ever do my own passive sub, I want that amp.
I tell you what, I mean, as soon as I put it on, it was immediate. I had to, it has a lighter output. The output is lower than everything else. So I had to, rebalance everything with the other amps, of course.
Right.
But even so, what it did with the bass is just, it made everything tighter and deeper and lower. And it was like, what's happening here? I mean, it was just, yeah.
The best subwoofer on the planet would start with that amp, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, all these subwoofers, the weakest link is always these digital amps that, they throw out these crazy 5,000 watts, 3,000 watts, but they really don't deliver and control those drivers like that thing did.
Yeah, and his designer, they still don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, that was a mystery.
About that mystery. He just kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth. We're not sure if he was killed or something, but he was quite a controversial character.
He's probably aliens,
Yeah, that could be. That could be. I'm sure QAnon's got a theory on it. These are the Odysseys here. And these are basically the upper bass amps. They're really overkill for what I'm using them for, because those are such good amps, designed by Klaus. And these are the special edition ones. These are the Stratos SE Extreme Monos.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
well, you're going to be at Expona too. Is he going to be at Expona? Is Klaus,
Oh, yes. Yeah. In fact, I know right where his room is, because his room is one of the most fun rooms of a show, because he has such a good sense of humor. And the music he plays isn't your typical audiophile type music.
Right. It's a good room. It's good for budget audiophiles too. I mean, it's not break the bank.
And he wins awards all the time for best sound in his room because of his little Kismet, the speakers. And it's just, yeah, he was a bear of a guy too. I mean, he's a big guy. It's a good thing he's friendly,
Yeah, he's a big dude. Yeah.
I like the Star Trek.
The awards. Nobody wants to piss him off.
Those amps look like the Star Trek emblem when I first saw them.
Exactly. Yeah. The A for Ampzilla.
They're pretty in person.
Yeah, they come in black too. I was one of the But
well, one other thing, I don't know if we covered it in the last video, but you've done upgrade. You've done. Oh, it says we're running out of time here, so we'll speed it up a little bit. But you've done the recordings in the past, right?
yes.
Maybe touch on that just a little bit.
You mean recordings I've made myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was able to do a lot of that actually at the home entertainment show for Brian. We were doing the live versus recorded type of shows where we would have musicians come and play. They'd set up between the speakers. I would record them in DSD, simple 2-channel type recording, stereo microphones and microphone, and then instantly play the song back to the audience after they just heard it live. And this is all unamplified. It's all natural acoustic. And it was amazing how close you could get, to the sound.
I've got. Go ahead.
Good. I listened to some of his recordings today. It's really interesting.
Yeah, you'll have to send me some more. I think I've got 3 of them, and I'll feature them in future videos when I do test tracks on different systems.
Yeah, sure. Then I started doing live shows for different people I know, like Randy Jackson with the band Zebra. He often plays solo or with a fellow Joe Kaluta on keyboards. And I mean, the music they play is incredible. A lot of Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, things like that, Moody Blues. And these are some of the open reel master tapes that I have. These are direct copies off 1/2 inch safety or production masters.
That's cool.
It's all first generation, 1-to-1. And yeah, of course, got some Alan Parsons in here and just some of my old favorites, I was able to locate.
I don't see the Spice Girls. Where's that?
No. Okay. The unlabeled boxes here.
So, yeah, I'm glad we could catch up and get an update from you. And sometime I'm going to have to get down there.
Oh, absolutely.
I was tempted. I was so happy UNC beat Duke. I was tempted to buy a flight to go watch the national title game tomorrow, but it's not going to happen. But next time I go to New Orleans, I'll plan to come down there and listen, and maybe we'll do a video on site.
More than welcome. Because when are we going to Expona? That's coming up. That's what, the 21st?
That's right. We'll see each other then, and a lot of guys from Houston are going to be there, so you can meet some of those guys. Unfortunately, Doug can't make it, but yeah, we're going to have a good time. So yeah, I'm glad we could catch up with you. I wanted to feature some things with Doug as well while we have some time, because Doug just got a new piece as well. Doug, we want to show your new preamp. I don't think I was recording at the point where you got your new SMc Audio Preamp, right?
Yes. So this
long-time subscribers know Doug's room. I featured it many times in the past, but he had ordered the SMc Audio monoblocks, and this took about a year, but this is a one-off. The amps were, a modification of existing amps, but this preamp by Steve McCormick was a one-off, custom design from scratch pretty much, and custom picked out all the aesthetics to Doug's taste. And this is a one-off product that he created, which looks like a production piece. But Doug just got it this week. So we're going to have a future video where we spend more time with Doug and with Steve McCormick. But would you want to share anything to share so far, Doug?
It sounds great. I'm still trying to do some critical listening with it and get everything dialed in. I do have it running through that DS speaker, sort of a lower end correction, I guess, if you will. And I have found that that does tighten up the bass a bit, but there's plenty of bass coming out of the system. Very neutral sounding, which I like. It's very natural, very musical. I've been very, very impressed. I talked with Steve for a few minutes. He was checking on how everything was. Great customer service as usual. But I've been very, very impressed with it so far. I'm still listening to things and tweaking things, but I've been very, very impressed so far with it.
Yeah, you've had a lot of changes all at one time, so it's hard to isolate things. But once you get a little more time on it, we're going to do a Zoom call with Steve McCormick, talk a little bit more about the details, the technical stuff behind it, because I'm sure he's going to be offering similar products to other people.
Yeah. Well,
I'm so happy how it turned out.
The one thing I did notice when I first turned it on, dead silence. I mean, just dead silence. So, I mean, I think that's part of his design, which I'm sure we'll go into, is just a lot of isolation, trying to get out of the, DC, RFI interference, things of that nature, high quality, power components in that preamp. And so a lot of design into it, and it shows, and it sounds great. And the build quality of it, I know you can't feel it, but it's solid. And even the power connectors behind it with the external power supply, just very, very solid, snap in, good stability of the plugins. So I'm very happy with the quality build, and so far very happy with the sound.
Did he get a special designation, that preamp?
What do you mean?
Like a specific model number or anything that denotes it as being different?
It's VRE1, which stands for Virtual Reality Engine.
Oh.
And his design basically was to sort of give you a benefit of tubes as far as the sound. It's not a tube preamp, but he has a lot of experience with tubes, and he wanted something that gave you the sort of warm and visceral feel of tubes, but without coloring, the signal at all. And so that's what this is. And so he's got a beautiful user manual that goes through all of his design properties of this thing. But it's literally between COVID and everything else, it was pretty much a year project, huh, Jay?
Yeah, it definitely took a while. But that's one of the unique things about doing this process, is that it's basically a product designed as if you were contracting somebody to do a commission painting. Like, he does everything to your specifications based on his experience and your budget. And he ends up putting more time over a year than probably his budget allows. You get more than you paid for sure, than if you went through the distributor dealer markup model. So yeah, on a retail basis, that thing would probably sell for north of $50,000. But yeah, it's such a fun process to be engaged, although it does take quite a while when you're doing such a custom work. But it's good to see you finally got it and are happy with it. And we'll have, again, a more detailed video with Steve on that. And yeah, we're running out of time because I got the free Zoom, so I don't want to.
Jay, real quick, I bought this, playing around with this. This is that Babyface Pro S, I believe, the thing that you featured in one of your videos,
right?
Florida show, and we can do a video on that as well, because I've been playing around with that and getting a little bit more experience with that. It's a lot of fun. Yeah,
well, I'll be back in New Orleans, and we'll do something at your house. And you guys got to come back to Houston. Cherry's calling your name, the Raspberry Berets.
Yes.
We went there this weekend. Also this weekend, another gentleman that owns MBL Extremes. Now, he didn't want anything on video, but his house, you got to come to his house. It's every room has a system, every Surratt gear in one, MBL Extremes in the next. He's got that Hi-Fi Rose streamer in one. He's got my streamer in another room. It's a shame that I couldn't video it, but we had a good time this weekend. So next time you guys are in town, we'll definitely try to maybe coordinate a visit over there.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a plan there. I tell you, I like that Raspberry Beret. That was good.
It's good, huh?
Yeah, so it's hard to describe that to someone. That's it.
Everybody asked for the recipe, so maybe I'll post it and make one on the YouTube channel one day.
I'm going to give it a run this weekend, Jace. We're hosting an 80s party for my sister's 50th birthday. So I'm going to try my hand at it. I found some whipped vodka, so I'm going to give it a run.
Nice. All right. Well, guys, we're down to a minute left before this thing's going to cut off. So I definitely appreciate you guys joining and sharing your system. And look forward to seeing you, Dave, soon in Expona.
Absolutely. Yep.
And Doug, we're always in touch. So y'all have a good Sunday, and we'll talk again soon.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Doug, thanks for making the trip over today.
It was a lot of fun. Have a good night.
Listening.
All right. Take care.